London. You two know about it.
I still live there, yes.
Sorry to hear that.
It's better than Swindon.
I don't know it too well. I've been there a handful of times. But what I do know about London is that when it's marketed to the rest of the world, it's normally red buses, red post boxes, English people, and also, the London Eye, Parliament, all of these sorts of sites. And one of those things is the London Underground. And it's recently, or should I say, the Overground, which, is part and parcel
They're connected.
of living in London. See what I did there?
Unfortunately.
I think it's had 6 lines change their names, hasn't it? And the changes are so egregious. Normally, I wouldn't talk about, who cares about the rail network in London? Well, you'd certainly do.
I spent enough bloody money on it.
But before I get on to the actual news, it's worth mentioning that Calvin Robinson has joined Lotus Eaters. He has his own show on a Thursday afternoon, 3:00. And if you use the code Crusade, you get 50% off Gold tier, which is the highest tier on our website, which allows you to submit video comments to his fatherly advice section. And if you open with Dear Father Calvin, we'll know it's for Calvin and not for this podcast. And so make sure to check that out. Obviously, it's great stuff. It's Calvin. So go watch it. Anyway, so as I was talking about how iconic these sorts of things are, they're so iconic that this is actually Mexico City. They've just copied our style of underground here.
Hi folks, sorry to interrupt the video, but I wanted to let you know that we've introduced a feature on the website that allows you to purchase individual videos. So if you go over to lotus.com and see a piece of premium content that you really want to watch, you can pay for it, and it is yours forever.
As well as our London buses as well. Apparently, here's My London, which is not exactly a great outlet, but they're being used in Mexico, and they're complaining about them being way cleaner than ours, which I find hard to believe. Mexico City, of course, being, I think, the kidnapping capital city of the world.
Yeah, but that means that there's no one around to actually ride the buses anymore.
That's true, actually. Everyone's in the back of a car with a bag over their head. So, obviously, they're iconic. It's part of Britain. It's part of our branding for tourism, isn't it? And most tourists go to London, even though I think most people should see London as well as the rest of the country as well.
Oxford,
Scotland, bit of a trek. But needless to say, these things are symbols of Britain, aren't they? No, things that shouldn't be questioned in a sense.
Things that were nice before 1997.
Yeah, it's funny that. Interesting line to draw there. And I wanted to move on to this. So it was announced in August that they were going to change the names of 6 overground lines. Apparently, this is going to cost 6.3 million and take 2 years, which I don't understand. I can come up with 6 better names than the ones they've given, and you can pay me 50 quid.
Well,
I'll do it for free if you want.
Keeps getting cash injections from the last 2 years from the Department for Transport to just spend it on projects that don't deliver on time, including trying to roll out 5G across all of the tube networks, and it's now been kicked into the long grass until late 2026.
You can't even get internet in a lot of them, can you?
No,
maybe just the Elizabeth line.
No, even the Elizabeth line is only Bond Street Station that has 5G. It's Jubilee line, some of Jubilee line that has 4G. The rest of it's occasional Wi-Fi that drops out, and only if you're on O2. Bloody, you can tell I get these things all the time. The London Overground, yeah, quite, yeah. I'm getting PTSD flashbacks. The London Overground was just a network of one name for a bunch of different non-interlinked lines. So it does make sense to brand them differently. I just know what the names are, and they're ludicrous.
Yes, and I also think that calling the station the thing that you're travelling to, so if you're going to a part of London, having the station named after the part of London you're in is fine.
Yeah, but so that's what they're doing. They're keeping the actual station names, but the line themselves are getting different names to go from there to there. It's like
I'm a country boy. I don't understand these things.
It's like how the Elizabeth line goes from Abbey Wood to Heathrow Airport, but the entire thing is still called the Liz line. They've ballsed up the Elizabeth line as well. Have you got it recently? And have you seen the Pride trains?
Yeah.
So
great.
yeah, they've got the intersectional pride flag, and they've got that, you know, the diversity realism art style where they make these sort of shapeless blob people that look like they're made from a Canva graphic, and they're all
Very
super
corporate,
diverse.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that. It's got some idiot on a wheelchair and some woman in a hijab and someone with like mastectomy scars. It's mad. It's absolutely mad.
But anyway, let's move on to Sadiq Khan's tweet. This was supposedly part of his 2021 re-election manifesto. So he's actually fulfilling what he promises. It'd be nice if other politicians could do that. And I suppose I may as well not go on about that. But here we are. So the lines are the Liberty line, okay. Lioness line, which is after the women's football team, which lost in the final of the Women's World Cup. The Mildmay line, the Suffragette line, the Weaver line, and the Windrush line. And if you're not from Britain, some of these might be a bit confusing, but thankfully Sadiq explains because many of his voters are not from Britain either. And
they're going to need to translate these
to
tweets.
Contextualize. So he starts off explaining the Windrush line. This is the one from Highbury and Islington to Clapham Junction, if you're interested. Pretty meaningless to me. I'm more at home on a tractor than I am in the underground, or the overground. He says, the Windrush generation continues to shape our city today. This line honours them and runs through areas with strong ties to Caribbean communities.
Oh, in what days does it continue to shape our city, Sadiq? Is it
knife crime statistics, yeah.
Is it the fatherlessness by any chance? They really do treat the Windrush like the UK's Mayflower. It's like they settled an undiscovered continent.
Mm-hmm.
It's enraging.
Also, until a handful of years ago, no one ever talked about Windrush.
Yep.
It's one of those things that suddenly everyone always knew and always used to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Not the case.
It's a racial stick to beat the native population with.
Highbury and Islington in North London over to Clapham in the West. I mean, it is sort of, in and around near Tottenham.
Is Clapham in the West? I thought Clapham was south. And then New Cross is definitely south. Because New Cross is right before Lewisham, so southeast.
Yeah. Well, Highbury and Islington's just north of the river, right?
Yep.
Clapham is south of the river, you're right. But yeah, it does go through sort of black areas.
New Cross, definitely.
In fact, actually, Clapham's now got a bit more gentrification.
It's very Australian.
Right, yeah.
No, it is.
That's
where all the Australians that move over to the UK live. Like, if you go on a dating app in London, you'll see Australians from Clapham, and that's it.
Clapham used to be a byword for sort of very deprived and poor and crime-ridden. It's not so much now. I think it actually costs quite a lot of money to live in Clapham.
I've been there relatively recently, and it seemed quite nice.
It's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. Islington is horrible.
That's
really horrible.
Isn't that Corbyn's? Yeah,
Yep.
I was about to say. So another one here is the Weaver line, which is Liverpool Street to
Cheshunt.
Cheshunt. Need to be careful how I pronounce that.
Spitalfields, Bethnal Green, and Hackney. Oh,
yep.
Oh dear. No thanks.
So the colour is maroon, and the Weaver line runs through Liverpool Street, Spitalfield, Bethnal Green, and Hackney, areas of London known for their textile trade. That's
And knife crime.
shaped by migrant communities and individuals.
Yeah, but the migrant community is shaping the knife crime. I mean, again, look, if this was just a line name, fine. Actually, it's not a bad line name. But the reason behind it is this circuitous folding in of migrant communities, not women from Britain who did the majority of weaving pre-industrially. So that's also anthropologically ridiculous. And then also migrant communities and individuals. So migrant communities are just like an insect hive mind.
Yeah,
and then you have individual persons.
Yeah.
So we have migrants and people, apparently.
I picked up on that as well. I thought it was a funny turn of phrase. Like he's trying to be, preempt some sort of backlash, isn't he, by adding that? But it just makes it seem like he doesn't think that migrants are individuals. Very poor choice of words, Sadiq Khan.
5 more years.
Good
5 more years. Sorry.
So another one here is this one, the suffragette line.
There's going to be a lot of bombs on that, are there?
They keep on running into horses for some reason. I don't know why. They're always late.
Do you remember Horrible Histories when they did the suffragette song? And there's this amazing bit where she throws herself under a horse and it cuts to the bloke wearing the moustache. And he just goes, "We can't give women votes. If they're so stupid, they'll do that."
Well, Horrible Histories has made the case. Who are we to argue? Only joking, of course.
I'm not.
So the suffragette line celebrates the working class movement. It wasn't working class. But it was upper class. Born in the East End and fought for votes for women. Barking was home to Annie Huggett, the longest surviving suffragette. But it's also worth mentioning that it was voted for by a parliament full of men as well. And also most of the prominent suffragettes were aristocrats, weren't they? They were sort of the wives of prominent people who are just like, how come I can't talk about politics? It's also worth mentioning as well that women got the vote only, what was it, 7 or so years after universal male suffrage. So it's always banded about, oh, look at how terribly oppressed women were. But then a lot of working class men didn't get to vote either.
They also got it without conscription, which I agree with. Women shouldn't be conscripted, but special privilege versus,
It does make sense that Sadiq Khan would want to sort of virtue signal in favour of domestic terrorists, which is what the suffragette movement was. They bombed people.
Yep.
They bombed people, so they used violence to get their way.
He's courting his
not a
own voter
surprise.
base there, isn't he?
Not a surprise.
He literally did pro bono work for terrorists, so you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But it's also really weird. Like, I'm just hopping aboard the suffragette. It sounds weird when you say it like that.
It sounds like an innuendo, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you're trying to convert a feminist through other means.
Well, the suffragette line smells a bit. Smells like cat urine. So the next one is the Mild May line.
Oh, I hate this.
It's mild, man.
So the Mild May Mission Hospital is a small charitable hospital in Shoreditch that has cared for all Londoners for decades. All Londoners, you've got to get that in there. It played a pivotal role in the HIV/AIDS crisis in the 1980s. So it's basically a hospital that specialised in helping people with HIV, which largely affected gay and black people.
Yeah, so if you didn't shoot heroin or bum without a condom on, you were fine. And we're naming a line after that. Great. I love what's happening to my home city.
It's funny how they have to search harder and harder for something to virtue signal about.
Yes.
Mhm.
I was born and raised in London, well, Greater London. I've never heard of that. Shoreditch is in the east, right? I mean, it's not a million miles from Liverpool Street. I've drunk in Shoreditch dozens and dozens. I've never heard of that in my life.
Well,
I'm
now
really
you
scraping the bottom of the barrel.
now you
to
can
find
take the,
something to virtue signal about.
you can take the sodomy line back home now.
Goes for a lot of tunnels, that one.
Yeah. And here's another one.
They didn't even win.
Yeah, they didn't even win. Running through Wembley, the line honours the historic achievements and lasting legacy of the England women's football team and continues to inspire and empower the next generation of girls. You know, the men's team is better. That is worth saying.
Well, no, women's football as a totality is a joke. It's terrible. It's
in
nonsense.
comparison
It's
to the
absurd.
men's, yeah.
It's absurd how poor this quality, the standard of football is in all women's football, even in the World Cup. It's clown shoes. It's not even funny. Women's goalkeepers are it's actually comical. Women's football, I don't mind saying this, as a totality is pathetically poor.
No, I think that the quality of football is demonstrated when you get the professional teams playing like the under 15 side and getting thrashed. So it's not, we're not having a go at women. We're just saying that when it comes to football, blokes better.
Yeah, most of the country, I would have a really strong opinion on this if I bothered watching it, but I have so many better things to do than watch women's football.
Yeah, I can't watch more than a few minutes at a time. I've tried a number of times, half a dozen times, 10 times. I've tried to sit down and watch a game of women's football, get 5, 10, 20 minutes into it, and I'm just like, I'm sort of snorting and sniggering to myself and tutting and shaking my head, and I just can't watch anymore.
If I want to watch bad football, I'm a Plymouth Argyle supporter. So
Like, they can't string a number of passes together. They can't do a ball across the field. They haven't got the power in their legs. Honestly, women's goalkeepers are. You get the idea. I haven't really got the words to describe female goalkeepers.
I feel like I should have just done it about women's football. There's a untapped goldmine here. So the final one is the Liberty line, which I think is probably the least egregious name, I suppose.
That's fine, yeah.
This line runs through Havering and celebrates the historic independence of the people of Havering and its status as a royal liberty.
Havering, sorry to nitpick, but this is my neck of the woods.
I don't know this area, so thank you for correcting me. An area that traditionally had more self-governance and autonomy.
That's
which is a bit ironic from you, isn't it?
From the man who expanded ULEZ out to everywhere that said in the consultation, no thanks.
Self-governance and autonomy is what I want, and this is just mocking me. If I get on the Liberty line and I'm just there surrounded by migrants, just like, oh, this is my liberty. Is it? I can't afford a home. I've paid an extortionate amount of money to be in London, and I'm surrounded by people that don't even like me.
And the care worker who's FaceTiming the person she's sending all our tax money back to.
Yep.
Liberty.
I was born and raised and went to school, primary and secondary school, in Havering.
Sorry for getting it wrong.
And lived in Havering the London Borough of Havering my whole life until just a few years ago. Romford is probably the biggest town near me. Been to Romford thousands of times. Been to Upminster thousands of times. Again, born and raised and lived for nearly my whole life near Elm Park, Hornchurch, which is between those two places. So this is really absolutely my neck of the woods. And until, I don't know, maybe 2014 or 15 or 16, it was just almost entirely white. It was just pure Essex, right? Because the London Borough of Havering, if anyone doesn't know, is on the outskirts of the Greater London area. It's on the outskirts of London. It's sort of more Essex than London almost. And so anyway, it's just, yeah, that classic sort of Tory. Most of the seats are fairly safe Tory most of the time. So it's sort of, no wonder they want to deliberately flood it with foreigners, because Romford now is completely, within just a few years, in 5, 6, 7 years, since Theresa May, it's completely unrecognisable. And there's just no need to change any of this. I know the little line that goes from Romford to Upminster. It's just one little platform in Romford Station, and it's just the most absurd, unnecessary virtue signalling.
At least
Same.
it's one of the nicer ones, I suppose. You could have had, the
Right.
Windrush line or something like that.
Yeah.
Same thing's going to happen, I think, towards my area, because they're expanding apparently the Bakerloo line out to Lewisham. Currently, I don't have a tube station anywhere near me. No transient population, still suburban, but they've started building the preparatory tower blocks for all of the diverse enrichment that they're going to flood my area with, and it's only going to be a little while until you start getting overground or tube coming to the southeast, and it's going to be so depressing.
Just keep an acid attack kit near your front door.
Right? Yes.
I'm laughing, but it's genuinely good advice these days. I mean, the number of them just recently in London, which of course is not a crime that is known to happen domestically.
Oh, no, did you not hear? We had a couple of them happen in the Victorian era. Therefore, it's a British pastime, don't you know? That's why, since record immigration, we're #1 in the world for acid attack.
We had to pour through all of British history to find this one example to disprove you. But there have been some alternatives suggested. I thought perhaps naming a line, the knife crime line, is a good idea. I don't know whether you've got any honourable suggestions to represent modern London. The unaffordable line is another good one. I'm trying to think of some other ones.
Just go the other way, call it like the Enoch Powell line or something.
British Empire line. That's actually a good name of a line.
The Cecil Rhodes line.
Jihad Express, and it goes from Newham to Whitechapel, and that's it.
The East India line. I don't know. It's not even British. But anyway, this next meme is making fun of it. It's a little bit graphic. It has been censored, but if there are kids watching, cover their eyes for a little bit. But Cully Druckber,
Best account on Twitter.
shared, POV, you are taking a train ride on the Windrush line, and this is a guy, I think he was a migrant, wasn't he, who just randomly started hitting people with a machete.
Yeah, he took some guy's hand off, basically.
So, yes, this was on the tube. This was the underground, wasn't it? Rather than the
I think it's
overground.
the Jubilee line.
Okay.
Looks like the Jubilee line to me, yeah.
So, yes, this is an accurate representation of London life, it seems. I wouldn't know. But on a slightly more upbeat note, I saw this and it made me laugh. Dr. Francis Young said, cheer up, Walter. They named an overground line after you because this is Walter Mildmay, who was Chancellor of the Exchequer to Queen Elizabeth I and founder of Emmanuel College, Cambridge. So there you go. I think that was the 16th century.
Oh yeah, you should just name certain lines after figures from British history and use the stops that they would frequent. I mean, the
You've got Dickens related stuff.
Exactly about to say Dickens. The Bakerloo line station, Baker Street station, is modelled after Sherlock Holmes. It's in the tile work. So why can't we have a bit more character like that?
Sherlock line, that would be good.
Sorry, we have to spend all our money on social housing for Somalis. Forgot about that bit.
It should just be whatever the name of the place already is. That's a very simple...
That's what it was before.
Yeah.
It's actually easier to navigate. If they've got these names that represent a place, it actually muddies the water. So you're like, I'm taking this line to so-and-so. And it's just easier to say, I'm going to here. You don't need an added layer of complication to it.
It is useful if you're navigating London just off the top of your head to know the lines which connect. Because obviously loads of them have overlapping stops, and so the colours make it easier to associate. But just don't name them stupid bloody things. Sorry.
So It's also worth mentioning as well that this cost over £6 million to do. And just looking at the Underground, which, is part of the rail network in London, so it's fair to associate it with the Overground names. The amount of crime that skyrocketed, we've got the data for 2023 now, and comparing it to 2022, look at theft, public order offences, violence, criminal damage, hate crime, interestingly enough, has gone up as well, and work-related violence and aggression. I don't know what that is.
That'll be harassing tube workers.
Okay. So all of these have been going up, particularly theft. And wouldn't you think that people care more about not being beaten or stolen from when they're travelling than the name of the station?
What's also very interesting is within that year, the Elizabeth line opened, and the areas it passes through, one, it connects to Heathrow Airport. So everyone that's just coming off the plane, don't know who those people are. But two, the areas it passes through are some nice stops and some enriched stops. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's contributed to a significant bump in the difference in crime in the last year.
But of course, this is just another example of wasted money. And also the fact that Sadiq Khan made stop and search illegal, didn't he? So now the police can't stop people who are suspected of carrying weapons.
Well, they
which
stopped.
mysteriously meant that crime went up.
Well, they
Who'd have
changed the crime recording database as well, because Sadiq Khan said that because it had overrepresentation of diversity in the statistics, it was therefore racist. So they just said stop gathering statistics.
Yeah, it's not that they're just committing more crime. My goodness, that would be unforgivable, wouldn't it? But I've gone on for too long.
Quickly,
Sorry.
anecdote. Years and years ago, like 2002 or something, I was, in inverted commas, jumped on the train.
Blimey.
And they were going to nick my phone. I got my phone out and it was so old and crap. They were like, and then left me alone.
They wouldn't even steal from you.
I had a really old phone, like a really old Nokia from like 1998 or something. They were
Blimey.
like, no, just left me alone.
It's like a Dave Chappelle skit.
Yeah. It's like,
So
thank God.
the moral of the story is
They left you some change.
if you're in, if you're,
sorry for me.
I'm going to end on if you're in London, just be really poor. So when the criminals inevitably try and steal from you, they won't actually find anything of worth stealing. And don't worry, it's so expensive in London that you won't have to try very hard anyway.
The fast way to do it is just rent.
Yeah, exactly.
If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the Epoch series, this episode on Edward I Part 2. If you'd like to find out what else is being put out, you can follow on Twitter at lotuseaters_com on Twitter. Thank you and goodbye.